Hello, my name is Connie Liu. I'm an undergraduate at MIT, and today we're going to be talking about biodiversity. So there are three main types of biodiversity that we're going to go through. The first one is genetic biodiversity. Genetic biodiversity contains biodiversity or genetic information between and within populations. So between populations in that, say, elephants and humans both have different genetic codes, and they're both different populations. So that's one type of biodiversity. But within the human population, there's a lot of different genetic diversity as well. And maintaining that diversity is as important as maintaining the genetic diversity in different populations. Say the fact that humans and elephants and birds can all live in the same biosphere. So that's the first type of biodiversity, having to do with DNA and the genetic code. The reason that we need genetic biodiversity is for adaptability. Basically, if this is a case of survival of the fittest and natural selection, if we suddenly end up in a situation or an environment where it doesn't benefit us to have some type of trait anymore, then a lot of the members of a population will be eliminated. But if there is genetic diversity, then maybe one or multiple of the individuals in that population will have a favorable genetic code for that new type of environment. So then they can sustain the population, although there will be some shift in genetic code, that population will still survive because they have the genetic diversity to support it. The second type of biodiversity is probably the one you hear about the most, and that's species biodiversity. People make a big deal out of this one because it has to do with endangered animals and threatened and extinct animals or species. So species biodiversity is basically variety in the ecosystem and biosphere. This, again, is the most commonly known type of biodiversity. It's the one that people make the biggest deal out of, and you hear about it on the news a lot. This species is now endangered. We have to keep them from being extinct, things like that. So the pattern of species diversity goes from threatened, which means they're almost to endangered. And once they're endangered, that means that they're on the brink of extinction. So it's a big map of different stages of species presence you can have. Threatened is basically the first stage towards extinction. And extinction doesn't have to be just globally, but that's what you hear in the news when a species becomes globally extinct. But it can also be local extinction. Within an ecosystem, maybe, a species might be eliminated, and that's also detrimental to species biodiversity and also affects it. So there are those two distinctions of species biodiversity and extinction, global and local. Both are important. The third and last type of biodiversity is ecosystem biodiversity. Ecosystem biodiversity basically means a variety of ecosystems. Some examples of that would be desert and rainforest, things like that, tundra. And when a community or an ecosystem loses a species, let's go back to local extinction for that one. So basically, this is a case of local extinction. Then that community becomes less rich in diversity. So that's something that affects ecosystem biodiversity. If we're losing species, then that also kind of snowball effects into ecosystem extinction as well. So all of these, as you can see, are pretty tied together. Species diversity is very linked to, if you don't have a diverse genetic pool, then more likely you're going to become extinct as a species, and then extinct species cause ecosystem extinction as well as we continue to lose species within the local communities.